Disclaimer: this is a fictional dramatization created for artistic, emotional, and educational storytelling purposes. All characters and events are entirely fictional and created using AI tools. No impersonation, misrepresentation, or harm is intended. The content contains scenes of danger involving child characters. However, no real persons or minors were involved in its production. Grace's Love Stories produces scripted, AI-generated stories that promote, entertain, inspire kindness, and emotional connection. We respect our viewers and strictly adhere to YouTube's policies.
The cleansing ceremony had drawn every wolf in the Crescent Valley pack to the lunar temple, their bodies pressed together in the marble courtyard like petals in a dying bouquet. Sarah Thorne stood at the very back, as far from the raised dais as physically possible while still being present, her fingers twisted in the coarse fabric of her grey servant's dress. "Move aside, Omega," a she, Wolf hissed, shoving past her with barely concealed disgust. The woman's expensive perfume couldn't quite mask the deliberate insult she'd made sure her shoulder struck Sarah's healing bruise from yesterday's accident in the kitchens. Sarah bit her lip hard enough to taste copper and said nothing. Speaking would only make things worse. "Why do they even allow her here?" Another voice whispered, not quietly enough. "She's 23 and still wolfless, practically human." The words landed like stones in still water. 23 years old and still unable to shift, in a world where transformation defined your worth, where your rank determined your fate, she was nothing. On the dais, High Priestess Kenna raised her arms, and silence fell like a blade. "Tonight, we honor the moon goddess with purification. Each wolf will approach the sacred Moonstone and receive her blessing." The Moonstone sat in its ancient cradle at the center of the dais, a sphere of milky white crystal the size of a human skull, its surface dull and lifeless in the torchlight. Sarah had seen it countless times during her years serving in the temple. It never reacted to Omega wolves. One by one, wolves approached. Betas received a soft white glow. Gammas earned a pale blue shimmer. When Alpha Cain Drexler, her pack's leader and the man who'd rejected her bond request 2 weeks ago, placed his hand on the stone, it blazed brilliant gold. The crowd erupted in approving howls. "Omegas," Priestess Kenna called, her voice flat with disinterest. Sarah's stomach clenched. She hadn't expected to be called at all. But, as the other Omegas shuffled forward, she had no choice but to follow. They formed a pathetic line. Most touched the stone quickly, eager to end their humiliation when nothing happened. The Moonstone remained cold beneath their fingers. Sarah was last. She climbed the dais steps with her head down, feeling hundreds of eyes boring into her back. When she reached the Moonstone, she paused, staring at its lifeless surface. "Just touch it and leave," she told herself. But as she lifted her hand, something strange happened. A tingling sensation raced up her arm, like lightning trapped beneath her skin. "Hurry up!" someone called from the crowd. Laughter rippled through the courtyard. Sarah pressed her palm flat against the Moonstone's surface. The world exploded into radiant light. Brilliance erupted from the stone, so intense that wolves cried out and shielded their eyes. This wasn't the soft glow of beta acknowledgement or even the golden blaze of alpha recognition. This was something ancient, wild, and absolutely impossible. Luminous flames raced up Sarah's arm and across her body, wrapping her in ribbons of liquid moonlight. She gasped as power flooded through her, filling every empty space inside her that had ached with worthlessness. The Moonstone blazed beneath her palm, so bright it turned night into day. And then, like a thread being pulled taut across impossible distance, Sarah felt something else. Someone else. A presence so powerful it stole her breath consciousness, vast and overwhelming, reaching back toward her across hundreds of miles. Shock, recognition, desperate, aching need. Mine, that presence roared through her mind, the word echoing in a voice deeper than thunder. Pain exploded through Sarah's chest, not her pain, but his. She felt him falling, felt him hit the ground, felt his heart stutter as the bond snapped into place with the force of destiny denied too long, the Alpha King. Kael Vorstin, ruler of all wolf packs in the Northern Territories, and she'd just become his fated mate. The silver light died. Sarah collapsed on the dais, her hand still on the now dormant Moonstone. In the sudden darkness, she heard Priestess Kenna's voice, shaking with awe or terror. Impossible. The Moonstone hasn't blazed like this in 300 years. Not since the last, the priestess cut herself off, but Sarah already knew. Not since the last true lunar. The legendary mates of Alpha Kings, born once in a dozen generations, and Sarah, the wolfless Omega who'd been rejected and scorned her entire life, had just been marked as one. In the shocked silence, she heard Cain's voice, low and venomous. Seize her. This is dark magic. She's deceived the goddess herself. Hands grabbed her arms, yanking her away from the stone. As guards dragged her toward the temple dungeons, Sarah caught one last glimpse of the Moonstone. Deep within its milky surface, light still pulsed like a heartbeat, like a bond that would not be denied. The dungeon cell smelled of old stone and despair. Sarah sat on the narrow bench, arms wrapped around her knees, trying to make sense of what had happened. The silver light, the impossible connection, the feeling of someone powerful dropping to his knees miles away, gasping her name though he'd never heard it. Mate, her soul whispered. Our mate. But that was impossible. Omegas didn't have fated mates, and they certainly didn't bond with Alpha Kings through ancient temple stones. Footsteps echoed outside her cell. The door swung open to reveal Alpha Cain himself. He studied her with cold calculation. Well, the pathetic little Omega has caused quite a stir. Sarah said nothing. Years of survival had taught her when to stay silent. Do you know what you've done? Cain stepped inside, letting the door close behind him. You've made our pack look like fools. That display, whatever trick you used, has every wolf in the valley questioning my leadership. It wasn't a trick, Sarah said quietly. I just touched the stone. Liar! Cain's hand shot out, gripping her chin hard enough to bruise. Wolf-less Omegas don't make moonstones blaze. You're nothing, Sarah. You've always been nothing. His words should have hurt. 2 weeks ago, they would have shattered her. But something had changed when that silver light flooded through her. For the first time in her life, she felt like she mattered. Let me go, she said, meeting his eyes steadily. Cain's grip tightened. You're going to tell everyone it was a mistake. You're going to publicly reject whatever false bond you think you have, and then you're going to leave Crescent Valley forever. And if I don't? Then you'll have an accident, a tragic fall from the temple walls. Before Sarah could respond, a sound echoed through the dungeon, a long, mournful howl that made every wolf freeze. It was answered by another howl, then another, until the night was full of voices calling in distress. Cain's head snapped toward the barred window. What in the goddess's name? The door burst open. A Gamma guard stumbled in, his eyes wide with panic. Alpha, riders approaching from the north, royal standards. He swallowed hard. It's the Alpha King. The colour drained from Cain's face. What? King Kael himself. He's demanding entrance to Crescent Valley. His messenger says... The guard's voice dropped to a horrified whisper. He says he's come to claim his fated mate. Sarah's heart stopped, then started racing. He'd come. The presence she'd felt across impossible distance, he'd felt it too. And he'd come for her. Cain released her chin so abruptly she nearly fell. He stared at her with fury and dawning dread. You. This is your doing. I told you, Sarah said, her voice stronger now. It wasn't a trick. You can't be his mate. You're nobody. The one the Moonstone chose. Sarah stood, brushing past Cain toward the door. The guard instinctively stepped aside. I believe the Alpha King is waiting. Stop her! Cain roared, but his voice held desperation rather than authority. Sarah walked out of the cell, through the dungeon corridor, up the stone steps toward the temple courtyard. Behind her, she heard Cain and his guards scrambling to follow. As Sarah emerged into the courtyard, she saw wolves lining the walls, their faces shocked and frightened. The massive temple gates stood open, and through them she could see torches approaching, dozens of them, carried by riders mounted on wolves larger than any she'd ever seen. At the front of the procession rode a man who made the air itself feel heavy with power. Even from a distance, Sarah knew him. The bond hummed and pulled, a silver thread connecting her heart to his. Kael Vorstin, the Alpha King, had come for his mate. But as she took her first step toward the gates, Priestess Kenna stepped into her path, flanked by temple guards. "Stop! That Omega is under arrest for blasphemy and dark magic. She cannot leave temple grounds until she's been tried by the High Council." "Please," Sarah said quietly, "don't do this." "The law is clear," Kenna replied. "No wolf may leave this temple until—" Her words cut off as the temperature dropped. Frost spread across the marble courtyard, and every wolf present felt it the crushing weight of an alpha's rage. Through the gates, the Alpha King had dismounted. He stood in the torchlight, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark hair falling across his face. Even from here, Sarah could see his eyes blazing gold. When he spoke, his voice made the ground tremble. "Release my mate." The silence that followed Kael's command was absolute. Sarah stood frozen between Priestess Kenna's guards and the gates where the Alpha King waited. Every instinct screamed at her to run toward him, but years of conditioning as an Omega kept her rooted. "Your Majesty," Priestess Kenna said, her voice admirably steady despite the fear radiating from her. "This Omega has committed blasphemy. She used dark magic to deceive the sacred Moonstone. She is my fated mate." Kael's words cut through the priestess's explanation like a blade. He moved forward, passing through the gates with fluid grace, and wolves scattered before him. "The Moonstone recognized what you were too blind to see. A true Luna has awakened, and you dare imprison her." Murmurs rippled through the assembled pack. "True Luna." The words sent electricity through the crowd. "That's impossible." Kane's voice rang out as he pushed through. "She's wolfless. She's nothing. Do you question what the goddess herself has revealed?" Kael's attention shifted to Kane. "Or perhaps you question me?" "No, Your Majesty. I would never." "She has a bond with me." Kael's eyes found Sarah's across the courtyard, and the world narrowed to just the two of them. "I felt her awaken. I felt the Moonstone's recognition. I felt our souls connect across 200 miles, and it brought me to my knees." Sarah's breath caught. He'd felt it too, the impossible pull, the recognition that bypassed logic. "Show me your neck," Kael said, his voice gentler now but no less commanding. Sarah's hand moved automatically to her throat. She didn't understand until she saw his eyes fixed on the left side of her neck, the spot where a mate's claiming mark would appear. "There's no mark," Kane said triumphantly. "You see, yet?" Kael crossed the remaining distance in 3 long strides. Temple guards stumbled backward. "There's no mark yet because the bond hasn't been completed, but it will be." He stopped directly in front of Sarah, so close she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Up close, he was devastating sharp features, golden eyes that seemed to see straight through her. "You feel it," he said quietly, for her ears alone. "Don't you?" "Yes," Sarah whispered. "I felt you fall, miles away. I felt your heart race when the bond snapped into place." Something fierce and possessive flickered across Kael's face. "And I felt you awaken, felt your power flood through that ancient stone." His hand lifted slowly, giving her time to pull away. "May I?" Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. Kael's fingers brushed her cheek, and the touch sent silver fire racing through her veins. She gasped, and so did he, both staggered by the intensity. The bond blazed to life between them, visible even to those without special sight, a shimmering thread of silver light connecting his heart to hers. "Impossible," Priestess Kenna breathed. "The bond manifestation. I've never seen it so strong." "Because she's not just my true mate," Kael said, his thumb tracing Sarah's jawline with devastating gentleness. "She's my true Luna, the first in 300 years." His eyes never left hers, and anyone who dares question her worth who dares imprison or threaten what belongs to me will answer to both the king and the goddess herself. But she has no wolf, someone whispered. Kael's smile was sharp. Doesn't she? He placed his palm, flat against Sarah's chest, directly over her heart. Heat poured from his touch, not burning but awakening. You're not wolfless, Kael murmured, his face so close, his breath ghosted across her lips. You're something else entirely, something so powerful it needed a true mate's touch to awaken. So stop fighting it, Sarah Thorne. Let me see your true self. I don't know how, Sarah admitted, tears pricking her eyes. I've tried. You were trying to be like them. Kael gestured dismissively at the pack. But you were never meant to be like them. His power surged through their connection, wrapping around her. And suddenly, Sarah felt it the thing she'd been missing her entire life. Not a wolf, something ancient, something wild and absolutely terrifying in its power. That's it, Kael encouraged. Let her out. Pain exploded through Sarah's body. But this time it wasn't the pain of failure. It was the pain of something long trapped, finally breaking free. Her bones shifted, her muscles, reformed, and luminescence poured from her skin. The assembled wolves cried out in shock, because what emerged wasn't a normal wolf. Sarah's wolf form was massive, nearly as large as Kael's alpha wolf, with pure white fur touched with silver that shimmered in the moonlight. Her eyes blazed with the same radiance that had erupted from the Moonstone. A true Luna. Not just an alpha's mate, but a force of nature in her own right. Sarah's wolf moved on instinct, pressing close to Kael, nuzzling his throat. He made a sound low in his chest, satisfaction, possession, relief, and buried his fingers in her luminous fur. Perfect, he murmured. You're absolutely perfect. But as Sarah stood in her true form, finally whole, she felt something else. Danger. Not here, but coming. Something dark that would threaten everything they'd just found. Her wolf's instincts screamed a warning, and Sarah shifted back to human form. She swayed, dizzy from the first complete shift of her life, and Kael caught her immediately. What is it? He demanded, reading the fear in her eyes. I don't know, but something's wrong. The temple bell began to toll, a deep, mournful sound that meant only one thing: war. A gamma burst into the courtyard, blood streaming from his shoulder. Attack! The eastern border is under siege. Rogue wolves, dozens of them. He collapsed before finishing. Kael caught him, lowering him gently. Led by who? The gamma's eyes found Sarah's face, and horror filled his expression. They're chanting her name, the true Luna's name, like they've been waiting for her to awaken. Sarah's blood turned to ice. The rogues knew about her. How, unless someone had known all along, someone who'd been waiting for this moment. Kael rose, his expression cold and deadly. Take my mate to the royal chambers. Surround her with every warrior we have. No, Sarah said. The lunar power thrumming through her veins gave her courage she'd never possessed. I'm not hiding while wolves die, defending me. You just shifted for the first time, Kael said. You don't know how to fight. Then teach me. Sarah stepped forward. You said I was your true Luna. That means I stand beside you, not cowering behind guards. Their eyes locked, two wills clashing. Finally, Kael's lips curved in something like pride. You stay with me at all times. You follow my commands without question. And if I tell you to run, you run. Agreed? Agreed. Good. He turned to his warriors. Prepare for battle. We ride for the eastern border in 5 minutes. My brother commands the eastern forces send word we're coming. And someone get the true Luna proper armor. As chaos erupted around them, Kael pulled Sarah close one more time. His lips brushed her temple, his voice low and fierce. I just found you. I'll burn the world before I let anyone take you from me. Sarah pressed her palm over his heart, feeling it beat in rhythm with her own. Then we burn it together. But as she spoke, a chill ran down her spine. Something dark and hungry was watching them. something that had been waiting in the shadows for a true Luna to awaken. And now that she had, it was coming to claim her. The ride to the eastern border took less than an hour. Sarah clung to Kyle's back as his massive black wolf raced through the forest, surrounded by dozens of royal guards in their wolf forms. The armor they'd given her was lightweight but strong leather reinforced with silver thread. "Are you frightened?" Kyle's voice echoed through their bond. "Terrified," Sarah admitted, "but not of the rogues. Of failing. Sarah, you shifted into a true lunar wolf on your first try. Trust yourself." The forest opened into a clearing, and Sarah's breath caught at the carnage. Dozens of wolves battled Crescent Valley defenders against rogues that fought with terrifying efficiency. And they were winning. "Protect the Luna," Kale commanded as he shifted mid-leap, landing in human form, with a sword already in hand. His warriors formed a circle around Sarah. "I said I wouldn't hide," Sarah protested, but her guards didn't move. Through the chaos, Sarah watched Kale fight. He moved like poetry written in violence. Where he passed, rogues fell. But there were so many, and more kept coming. Then she saw her. A woman emerged from the shadows, tall and regal, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that glowed with unnatural purple light. She wore robes covered in symbols that made Sarah's skin crawl. "There she is," the woman called out. "The newborn Luna. How precious." Every rogue stopped fighting at her words. They pulled back and turned towards Sarah with hungry, hollow eyes. "Who are you?" Kale demanded, placing himself between the woman and Sarah. "I am Vesper Nightshade," the woman replied with a mocking bow, "and I've been waiting 23 years for your mate to awaken, Your Majesty." Sarah's blood ran cold. 23 years, her entire life. "Impossible," Kale said. "True Lunas are born at random. The goddess chooses. The goddess can be influenced." Vesper's smile was cruel. "With the right magic, the right sacrifice, I made sure a true Luna would be born in Crescent Valley, powerless and overlooked. I've been monitoring that Moonstone for decades with my scrying spells, waiting for the moment she would touch it and awaken. Tonight, when I felt the activation, I knew the time had finally come." "The Moonstone," Sarah whispered. "You corrupted it." "Very clever, little Luna." Vesper's eyes fixed on Sarah. "I've been feeding dark magic into that stone for decades, waiting for you to touch it, waiting for the bond with your true mate to snap into place. Because a true Luna's power is useless unless she's bonded to her Alpha King." Kale's entire body had gone rigid. "You wanted her to bond with me." "Of course. A true Luna bonded to an Alpha King holds enough power to reshape reality itself, to break the barriers between worlds, to free things imprisoned since the dawn of time." Vesper gestured, and the rogues began to advance. "And now that the bond is formed, all I need to do is take her from you." "Never." Kale's voice dropped to a lethal growl. "Oh, I will," Vesper said pleasantly. "But first, I think I'll make you watch as I drain every drop of power from your precious mate." She raised her hand, and dark energy crackled between her fingers. Before Kyle could move, before his guards could react, Vesper hurled the magic directly at Sarah. Time seemed to slow. Sarah saw the black lightning coming, saw Kyle lunging to intercept it, but something inside her roared NO with such force it shook the ground. Radiance exploded from Sarah's body, not gentle, but a blazing inferno of pure lunar power. It met Vesper's dark magic in midair, and the two forces collided with a sound like reality tearing. The shockwave sent wolves flying backward. When the light cleared, Sarah stood at the center of scorched earth, her hands blazing, with power. She wasn't cowering anymore. "You want my power?" Sarah's voice echoed with authority she'd never possessed, resonating with the voices of every true Luna who'd come before. "Then come and take it." Vesper's confident smile faltered. "Impossible. You just awakened." "You were right about one thing," Sarah interrupted. "A true Luna bonded to an Alpha King has extraordinary power, but you made one crucial mistake." "And what's that?" Sarah's eyes blazed pure luminescence. You thought you could control me. She threw her hands forward, and radiant fire erupted in a massive wave. Rogues screamed as the light touched them, not burning their flesh, but burning away the dark magic that controlled them. One by one, they collapsed, freed from whatever corruption had bound them. Vesper shrieked in fury and retaliated with dark energy so powerful it cracked the earth. Sarah raised a shield of silver light, but the impact drove her to her knees. Pain exploded through her chest as the pressing the reeve. Dark magic pressed against her defenses. Sarah! Kael's mental voice was frantic. Let me help you. No, she gasped. She wants us both. But Kael was already moving. He shifted mid-run, his massive wolf form covering the distance in seconds. He hit Vesper from the side with enough force to send her flying, breaking her concentration. The pressure on Sarah's shield vanished. She collapsed forward, gasping. Foolish alpha, Vesper snarled, rising to her feet. Blood trickled from her lip, but her eyes blazed with triumph. I wanted you both, but I'll settle for one. She gestured sharply, and symbols carved into the ground began to glow with sickly purple light. Sarah recognized them too late, a binding circle, prepared in advance. Kael's wolf form froze mid-step, held by invisible chains. No! Sarah screamed, running toward him. One true mate will do, Vesper said, already chanting in a language that hurt to hear. Once I drain your king's life force, you'll be so broken it will be easy to take your power. Darkness poured from Vesper's hands, wrapping around Kael's frozen form. Through the bond, Sarah felt his pain as the magic began to tear at his life force. She had to stop this, but how? Let go, a voice whispered through her mind, not Kael's, but something older. Stop trying to control it. Just let the lunar power flow through you. Sarah stopped running. She closed her eyes and did what the voice suggested. Let go of her fear, her doubt, her desperate need to prove she was worthy, and felt the full force of a true lunar's power flood through her veins. When she opened her eyes, the entire battlefield was bathed in moonlight that came from her skin. She could see the threads of dark magic binding Kael, see the corruption in Vesper's spells, and see exactly where to strike. Sarah raised her hand, and reality bent to her will. The binding circle shattered. The dark magic draining Kael evaporated like mist, and Vesper's trap turned to ash. That's not possible, Vesper, whispered, backing away. You're untrained. You're weak. His? Sarah said simply. And he's mine, and you just tried to take him from me. Luminous fire erupted from her hands one final time, but this wasn't an attack. It was a barrier, a wall of pure lunar power that surrounded Vesper in an unbreakable cage. Let me out, Vesper shrieked, throwing herself against the glowing walls. No, Sarah said calmly. You're going to answer for what you've done. Kael shifted back to human form beside her, his hand finding hers immediately. Through their bond, Sarah felt his pride, his awe, his certainty that she was exactly what he'd needed. Are you all right? He asked softly. I am now. Sarah leaned against him, suddenly exhausted. But I think I need you to catch me in about 3 seconds. I've got you, Kael promised. Sarah's knees buckled, and true to his word, Kael caught her before she hit the ground. As consciousness faded, she heard him calling for healers, heard relieved voices, celebrating their victory, and heard Vesper's screams from inside her cage. But louder than all of that, she heard Kael's voice through their bond, warm and certain. Sleep, my Luna. I'll be here when you wake, always. And for the first time in her 23 years, Sarah Thorne fell asleep feeling completely safe. Sarah woke in a bed so soft it felt like floating on clouds. For a disoriented moment, she thought she was back in her servant's quarters. Then she felt the bond, a warm, golden thread connecting her heart to another's, and memory crashed back. She sat up too quickly and immediately regretted it as the room spun. Easy. A gentle hand pressed against her shoulder, guiding her back to the pillows. An older woman with kind eyes and greying hair smiled down at her. You've been asleep for 2 days, Luna. Your body needs more rest. 2 days? Sera's voice came out as a croak. Where's Kale? Is he? The king is fine. He's been at your bedside almost constantly, though we finally convinced him to attend to pressing matters an hour ago. The woman, a healer, judging by her green robes, offered Sera a cup of water. Drink slowly. Your power reserves are completely depleted. Sera sipped gratefully. As her senses sharpened, she became aware of her surroundings. The ceiling soared above her, decorated with painted constellations that seemed to shimmer. Tapestries depicting ancient lunar ceremonies covered the walls, and through massive windows she could see mountains stretching to the horizon. Where am I? Silvercrest Palace. The king's personal residence. You're in the Lunar's quarters. They've been empty for 300 years, waiting for you. The weight of those words settled over Sera. 300 years. I need to see him, Sera said, pushing herself upright despite the healer's protests. I need to know he's really all right. The door burst open, and Kale strode in, his eyes immediately finding hers. Relief flooded his face, followed, quickly, by irritation. You're supposed to be resting, he said, crossing to the bed, but his hands were gentle as they cupped her face. Do you have any idea how frightening it was watching you collapse? Feeling you slip away through the bond while I couldn't do anything. I'm sorry, Sera whispered. I didn't know using that much power would. You saved my life. Saved all our lives. Kale pressed his forehead to hers. Don't apologize for that. Ever. The healer cleared her throat diplomatically. I'll give you two some privacy, but Luna, you need to eat within the hour. After she left, Sera and Kale simply held each other, neither speaking, both reassuring themselves through touch and bond that the other was real and safe. Finally, Sera pulled back enough to study his face. What happened while I was unconscious? Vesper. Imprisoned in the deepest cells beneath the palace, contained by wards woven by our best magic users. Kyle's expression darkened. When you lost consciousness, your cage began to fade, but Thessaly and I were able to reinforce it long enough to transport her here. She's been trying to reach you through dreams, but I've been blocking her. She can't reach you while I'm near. A chill ran down Sera's spine. She tried to get into my dreams? Multiple times. She's desperate, Sera. Whatever her plan was, capturing you is essential to it. The rogues she controlled have been freed, but she had backups, cells of corrupted wolves still hunting for you. Then I need to get stronger, need to learn to control my power properly. Which is exactly why I've summoned someone to help. Kale's expression shifted to something cautious, though I should warn you she's not what you'd expect. A knock sounded at the door. At Kale's command, it opened to reveal a woman who made Sera's breath catch. She was ancient, her skin weathered, her white hair hanging in intricate braids past her waist. But her eyes blazed with radiance identical to Sera's lunar power. So, the woman said, her voice surprisingly strong. The goddess finally blessed us with another true Luna. And from the mess I felt 2 days ago, an extremely powerful but completely untrained one. Sera, Kale said carefully, this is Thessaly Moonwhisper. She was 27 when she served the last true Luna, 300 years ago. That Luna's magic preserved her before she died, keeping Thessaly alive to serve the next one. Sera's mind reeled. You've been waiting 300 years? Give or take a decade. Thessaly moved into the room with surprising grace. You're very young, very raw, and very, very powerful. Dangerously so, if you don't learn control. Can you teach me? That depends. Can you handle hard truths? Because I won't coddle you. You're not just his beloved, you're a weapon, a shield, and a crown all in one. If you don't learn to wield yourself properly, you'll destroy everything you're trying to protect. Kale growled low in warning. Careful, Thessaly. Truth is truth, young king. Thessaly didn't even glance at him. Well, Luna? Are you ready to discover what you really are? Sera thought about Vesper's corrupted magic. about the rogues still hunting her, about the responsibility crushing down on her shoulders. Then she felt Kael's hand squeeze hers, felt his absolute faith through their bond. "Teach me," Sarah said firmly. "Teach me everything." Thessaly's stern expression cracked into the smallest smile. "Good. We start immediately. King, you're dismissed." "Dismissed?" Kael's eyebrows rose. "This is lunar training, which is sacred and private. Out." Thessaly made a shooing motion. "You can fawn over your mate later." Kael pressed a kiss to Sarah's temple. "I'll be just outside if you need me." After he left, Thessaly's expression grew serious. "Now then, let's discuss why Vesper is so desperate to capture you, and why your power scares me almost as much as it excites me." "Scares you?" "Child, 2 days ago you created a prison of pure lunar light, strong enough to contain a dark sorceress who's been practicing forbidden magic for centuries. You did this after already depleting your power reserves. Do you have any idea how impossible that should be?" Sarah shook her head. "A normal true lunar takes years to build that level of power. Decades to wield it with precision. You did it on instinct, in your first real fight." Thessaly moved to the window. "Which means one of two things. Either you're the strongest true lunar ever born, or Vesper was right, and your power was artificially enhanced somehow." "Enhanced how?" "That's what we need to discover. Because if Vesper tampered with you before your awakening, if she planted something in you—" Thessaly turned back, her expression grave. "Then you might not just be bait. You might be a weapon she's planning to activate from inside your own soul." The training began at dawn and didn't stop until past midnight. Thessaly was merciless, pushing Sarah to her limits and beyond, forcing her to access her lunar power in increasingly difficult ways. Again, Thessaly commanded as Sarah collapsed to her knees in the private training courtyard, sweat dripping from her face despite the cool mountain air. "I can't," Sarah gasped. "I've already created 20 shields, battled 50 conjured enemies, and woven protective wards. I have nothing left." "You have everything left. You're just afraid to access it." Thessaly's voice was sharp. "What will you do when Vesper's followers attack again? Tell them you're too tired." Sarah gritted her teeth and raised her hands again. Luminescence flickered weakly between her fingers, then died. "Pathetic." Thessaly waved her hand, and a bolt of radiant energy flew at Sarah. Instinct made Sarah throw up a shield. The magic shattered it easily, sending her flying backward into the courtyard wall. Pain exploded through her shoulder. Before she could recover, Thessaly sent another bolt. "Stop!" Sarah screamed, scrambling to her feet. "I can't." "Then you'll die. Is that what you want? To fail your mate?" Thessaly's assault intensified. "Fight back." Something inside Sarah snapped. Not with rage, but with determination forged from years of being called worthless. She was done being weak. Radiant fire erupted from her body in a sphere of protective energy. Thessaly's attacks bounced off harmlessly, and Sarah advanced through them, her power growing. "Better," Thessaly said, but she didn't stop. "Now show me you can strike." Sarah thrust her hands forward, and luminous lightning arced from her palms. It hit Thessaly's shield with enough force to illuminate the entire courtyard. The ancient advisor smiled a true, genuine smile. "There she is. There's the true Luna." She dropped her attack, and Sarah's power faded immediately, leaving her trembling. But this time, when she fell to her knees, it was with accomplishment rather than defeat. "You have good instincts," Thessaly said, helping Sarah to her feet. "But instinct won't be enough. Vesper has been planning whatever she's doing for decades. If we're going to stop her." "If?" Sarah interrupted. "You mean when?" Thessaly's expression grew troubled. "Sarah, there's something you need to understand about true Lunas. Our power comes from the bond with our mates, yes, but it also comes from the moon herself. We're channels for her divine energy. The ancient Lunas used this power to seal away dark beings beyond the veil, the barrier between our world and realms of darkness, which means we can be corrupted," a new voice said from the courtyard entrance. Both women turned to find a man leaning against the archway, tall and lean, with copper hair and eyes that shifted between green and gold. Power radiated from him, different from Cale's commanding presence, but no less formidable. "Prince Darian," Thessaly said, her voice cooling noticeably. "I didn't realize you'd arrived. Father sent me to check on the new Luna." The man's gaze fixed on Sarah with uncomfortable intensity. "And to offer my services as a trainer. After all, Thessaly, you can teach her to wield lunar magic, but you can't teach her to fight. Not really. She doesn't need to fight. She has warriors for that." "Does she?" "Because from what I heard, she had to save herself and the king during that battle. Seems like she could use some combat training." Darian approached Sarah with predatory grace. "I'm Cale's younger brother, by the way. Beta Prince, commander of the royal armies. He doesn't like to advertise our relationship. We have complicated family dynamics." "I didn't know Cale had a brother," Sarah said. "Most don't. He keeps me busy with military campaigns." Darian circled her, assessing. "You're smaller than I expected. More fragile looking. I'm amazed you survived Thessaly's training methods." "I'm stronger than I look," Sarah said, lifting her chin. "Prove it." In a move too fast to track, Darian grabbed her wrist and yanked, pulling her off balance. "In a real fight, your enemies won't wait for you to summon your power. So what do?" Sarah tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. "Let go." "Make me." Power surged through Sarah on a wave of anger, but Darian was ready. He twisted her arm, forcing her to her knees before she could release it. "See? In the time it takes you to charge your magic, you're already dead." He released her and stepped back. "You need to learn to fight without it, to use your power as a supplement, not a crutch." "That's enough," Thessaly snapped. "She's been training for hours." "Actually," Sarah interrupted, rubbing her wrist. "He's right. Vesper grabbed me during the battle. If I'd known how to break a hold, I could have escaped before Cale had to rescue me." Darian's expression shifted to something like approval. "Smart girl. Thessaly can teach you the mystical aspects. I'll teach you how to stay alive." He offered his hand to help her up. "Training at dawn tomorrow. Don't be late." As he left, Thessaly made a disgusted sound. "That man is going to get you killed." "Maybe, but right now, I need every advantage." Sarah looked at the ancient advisor. "You said true Lunas can be corrupted. What did you mean?" Thessaly was silent for a long moment. Finally, she sighed. "Come, there's something I need to show you." She led Sarah deep into the palace, down winding stairs, until they reached a locked door covered in wards, so powerful they made Sarah's skin prickle. Beyond this door are the palace archives specifically, the forbidden section. Thessaly placed her hand on the door, and the wards parted. "What I'm about to show you can never leave this room. Not even your mate can know. Do you understand?" Sarah hesitated. Keeping secrets from Cale felt wrong, but something in Thessaly's expression made her nod. Inside, the archive was small, just a circular room lined with shelves holding maybe 100 books and scrolls. But the power contained here made the air thick. Thessaly pulled a leather-bound tome from the highest shelf. "This is the chronicle of the last true Luna. Her name was Elara Starweaver, and she was powerful beyond measure. She ruled alongside the Alpha King for 50 years, bringing peace to all wolf territories." "What happened to her?" "She was corrupted." Thessaly turned the pages, revealing illustrations of a beautiful woman with silver hair and haunted eyes. By a dark sorceress, not unlike Vesper. The sorceress couldn't defeat Elara in direct combat, so she poisoned her slowly planted seeds of doubt, whispered lies, fed her corrupted magic disguised as enhancement. The sorceress wanted to use Elara's power to breach the veil and free the dark beings imprisoned there. Sarah's stomach dropped. And Elara didn't realize. Not until too late. The corruption grew inside her for years, hidden beneath her natural lunar power by the time we discovered it. Thessaly's voice cracked. "She killed her mate, drove a blade through the Alpha King's heart in front of his entire court, then took her own life immediately after." Horror flooded through Sarah. Why are you telling me this? Because Vesper didn't just try to capture you 2 days ago. She's been watching you, influencing you, possibly since birth. Thessaly met her eyes. And I need to examine you thoroughly to determine if she's already planted corruption inside you. And if she has, then we remove it before it destroys you and everyone you love. The ancient advisor's hand began to glow with radiance. This will hurt. I need to look into your very soul, examine every thread of power. If there's anything foreign, I'll find it. Do it, Sarah said, steeling herself. Thessaly pressed her glowing palm to Sarah's chest, and agony ripped through her. It felt like being torn apart from the inside. Images flashed through her mind. Her childhood in Crescent Valley, the years of rejection and scorn, the moment she touched the Moonstone, her first transformation, the battle. But underneath it all, woven through her memories like poison through veins, Sarah saw something else. Dark threads, tiny, nearly invisible, but absolutely there. They wrapped around her lunar power, feeding on it, growing stronger. Vesper's corruption, already inside her. No, Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. No, please, I'm sorry, Thessaly said, and she sounded like she truly meant it. She pulled her hand back, and the vision ended. Sarah collapsed to the floor, sobbing. How long? She managed to ask. How long before I become like Elara? Before I hurt Kael? I don't know. Weeks maybe, months if we're lucky. The corruption is still young, still weak, but it's growing, Sarah. Every time you use your power, it grows stronger. Then I won't use my power. That won't work. The corruption feeds on lunar energy. Yours, the moon's, it doesn't matter. As long as you're bonded to your mate, as long as you're a true lunar, it will keep growing. Thessaly helped her sit up. There's only one way to stop it. Sarah looked up at her with desperate hope. How? We have to find Vesper's anchor, the object or spell she used to plant the corruption. If we destroy that, the corruption in you will die too. And if we can't find it? Thessaly's silence was answer enough. Sarah would become a murderer, would destroy everything she loved, just like Elara had done 3 centuries ago, unless they found a way to stop it first. Sarah didn't tell Kael about the corruption. She knew she should, but every time she opened her mouth to confess, she remembered Thessaly's warning. If he knows, he'll either lock you away or refuse to leave your side even when the corruption makes you dangerous. Either way, you'll both die. So she smiled when he held her, accepted his kisses and returned them, trained with both Thessaly and Darian until her body screamed. And at night, when Kael slept beside her in the massive Luna's bed, she lay awake, feeling the dark threads inside her pulse and grow. It had been a week since Thessaly's revelation. 7 days of desperate searching through archives, questioning imprisoned rogues, trying to figure out what Vesper had used as her anchor. 7 days of failure, and Sarah could feel the corruption getting stronger. It started small, intrusive thoughts that weren't quite hers. Wouldn't it be easier if everyone just left you alone? Wouldn't Kael be safer without you? She could push them away at first, but each day they grew louder, more convincing. You're distracted, Darian observed during their morning combat training. He'd just thrown her to the mat for the 5th time. What's wrong? Nothing. Sarah climbed to her feet. Again. No. Darian crossed his arms. Something's eating at you. You've been off all week, slower, weaker, less focused. If this were a real fight, you'd be dead 3 times over. Then I need to train harder. You need to tell someone what's wrong. He moved closer. I know you and that ancient fossil are keeping secrets. I've seen you disappearing into the archives, so either you trust me enough to help, or I go to my brother and tell him his mate is hiding something dangerous. Sarah's power flared instinctively, a warning. Luminescence crackled around her hands. Darian didn't even flinch. See? That right there. The old Sarah would never threaten someone with her power. You're changing, Luna, and not for the better. The truth of his words hit her like ice water. She was changing. The corruption was already affecting her. "I'm corrupted," she whispered, the admission tearing out of her. "Vesper planted something in me before I even awakened. Thessaly found it, but we can't remove it without finding the anchor, the spell or object Vesper used to plant it. And we're running out of time." Darian's expression shifted through surprise, horror, and finally grim determination. "Does Kale know?" "No, and he can't. If he finds out, he'll tear apart the world trying to save you, even if it destroys you both." "Yes, I know, my brother." Darian began to pace. "An anchor. Vesper would need something connected to you from before your awakening, something she had access to for years." "But I was nobody," Sarah protested. "Just an Omega servant. Why would a powerful sorceress—" She stopped, a horrible thought occurring. "Unless she put it there before I was born." "Through your mother?" "I don't know. I never knew my mother. She died in childbirth, they told me. My father raised me until I was 5, then he—" Sarah's throat tightened. "They said he abandoned me, left me at the Pack Temple and never came back. Or he was killed," Darian said quietly. If Vesper wanted to ensure her plan worked, she'd eliminate anyone who might interfere. The suggestion made Sarah's stomach turn, but it also sparked a memory. "Wait. Before my father left, he gave me something. A necklace with a small silver pendant. I wore it every day, until—" Her hand flew to her throat. "Until I was 18. It broke during a ceremony at the temple, and I never found it again." 5 years before you awakened," Darian said. "Convenient timing. Where did the ceremony take place?" "The Lunar Temple in Crescent Valley. But that was 5 years ago." "Then we search." Darian grabbed her arm, already pulling her toward the door. "Come on. We can't just leave. Kale is in council meetings until sunset. Thessaly is researching. No one will miss us for hours." His grip tightened. "And every second we waste is another second that corruption grows. So move." They took 2 guards, not enough to draw attention, but sufficient for basic protection. Darian used his authority as Beta Prince to override their objections about leaving the heavily protected palace, claiming it was a brief reconnaissance mission to assess the valley's defenses. The ride back to Crescent Valley felt surreal. Just 2 weeks ago, Sarah had been a servant here. Now she returned as true Luna. The Lunar Temple stood at the valley's center, its white marble columns gleaming. Priestess Kenna met them at the entrance, her face pale. "Luna Sarah," she said, bowing deeply. I apologize for my actions during the ceremony. I didn't understand what the goddess was revealing. Please forgive my doubt." "There's no time for that now," Sarah said. "We need to search the temple, specifically the chamber where ceremonies are held." "Of course, but may I ask what you're looking for?" "A necklace. Silver pendant, simple chain. It broke here 5 years ago." Recognition flickered across Kenna's face. "I remember that day. You collapsed during the ceremony. Where are broken items from ceremonies kept?" Darian demanded. "The offering chamber. Everything that falls during sacred rituals is considered blessed. We store them." Kenna's eyes widened. "Oh, goddess. You don't think—" "Show us." "Now." The offering chamber was small, lined with shelves holding decades of accumulated objects. The sheer volume made Sarah's heart sink. "This will take hours," she said. "Then we search for hours," Darian replied, already pulling items from shelves. They worked in tense silence. An hour passed, then 2. Sarah's hands were dusty and scratched, her hope fading with each empty box. "You won't find it," a voice whispered in her mind, dark, familiar, definitely not hers. "Vesper's too clever. You're going to fail, just like you failed at everything else." "Shut up," Sarah muttered, pushing the corrupted thought away. "Did you say something?" Darian asked. "No, keep searching." But the voice persisted, growing louder. "Why are you even trying? You know how this ends. You'll kill Kale, just like Elara killed her mate. It's already inside you. growing, waiting. "Stop it," Sarah whispered, pressing her hands to her temples. "Sarah?" Darian moved toward her. "What's wrong?" "The corruption. It's getting stronger. I can hear—" She cut off as her fingers brushed. Something on a high shelf. A tingle of recognition raced through her. "Wait." She reached up and pulled down a small wooden box. Inside, nestled in faded velvet, was her necklace. The chain was broken, but the pendant was intact, a simple silver disc etched with symbols she'd never been able to read. The moment her fingers touched it, pain exploded through her chest. The pendant blazed with sickly purple light, and Sarah felt the corruption inside her surge in response. "That's it," Darian breathed. "That's the anchor. We need to destroy it," Sarah gasped, trying to drop the necklace, but her hand wouldn't obey. The corruption was fighting her, using her own body against her. "Darian, I can't let go." He drew his knife and moved toward her. "Don't fight me. I'm going to cut the connection." The temple doors exploded inward. Wolves poured into the offering chamber, dozens of them, their eyes glowing with the same purple corruption that pulsed from the pendant. And behind them, smiling with cold triumph, walked Vesper. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice you finding my anchor?" she said. "I've been waiting for this moment, little Luna. Waiting for you to lead me right to it." "Run!" Darian shouted at the guards, putting himself between Sarah and the sorceress. "Get her out of here." But Sarah couldn't move. The pendant was burning into her palm now, the corruption spreading through her like wildfire. She felt it reaching for her lunar power, felt it wrapping around her bond with Kael. Through the bond, she felt Kael jolt to awareness, felt his panic as he realized she was in danger. He was coming, she could sense him racing across the territory. "No," she tried to send. "Stay away. It's a trap." But he couldn't hear her. The corruption was blocking their connection. Vesper raised her hand, and purple lightning arced toward Darian. He dove aside, barely avoiding it, but the attack had been a distraction. Another bolt hit Sarah directly in the chest, and she screamed as agony tore through her. "Finally," Vesper breathed. "Finally, you're mine." The corruption exploded inside Sarah, consuming her lunar light, her will, her very sense of self. She felt it taking control, felt her body moving without her permission, felt her power turning dark and twisted. When she opened her eyes again, they blazed purple instead of luminescent. And the last thing Sarah saw before the corruption took her completely was Kael bursting through the temple doors, his face stricken with horror as he saw what she'd become. Kael stared at his mate, at the creature wearing her face, and felt his heart shatter. Sarah stood in the center of the offering chamber, purple energy crackling around her like a storm. Her eyes, once radiant and warm, now blazed with Vesper's corrupted magic. The necklace was fused to her palm. "Sarah," he said, his voice breaking on her name. "Fight it. I know you're still in there." The corrupted Luna tilted her head, studying him with an expression that was almost curious. When she spoke, it was Sarah's voice layered with something darker. "Your mate is gone, Alpha King. There's only me now." She raised her hand, and purple lightning arced toward him. Kael shifted mid-dodge, his massive black wolf form barely avoiding the strike. The energy hit the wall behind him, and ancient marble exploded into dust. "Sarah, please," Darian shouted from behind a pillar. "You have to fight the corruption." "Why would I fight it?" The corrupted Sarah's laugh was wrong, discordant. "This power feels glorious. For 23 years I was weak, helpless. Now I'm strong. Now everyone will kneel." Kael shifted back to human form, his hands raised in surrender. "If you're really gone, if Vesper has won, then kill me now, because I won't fight you. I won't raise a hand against my mate." Something flickered across Sarah's face, pain, confusion, a desperate internal struggle. The purple light wavered. "Kyle, run." It was Sarah's real voice, breaking through for just a moment. "I can't hold her off much longer. Please." The corruption slammed back into control, and Sarah screamed. Purple energy exploded from her body in a shockwave that threw everyone backward. Kale hit the far wall hard enough to crack stone. Through their bond, twisted and corrupted as it was, he felt her agony. She was still there, still fighting, trapped inside her own body, while Vesper's magic puppeted her. Impressive resistance, Vesper said, stepping over rubble. Most hosts are completely consumed within minutes. But then, you're not most hosts, are you? She approached the struggling Sarah, reaching out to stroke her cheek. You're exactly what I've spent decades creating. A true Luna powerful enough to channel the magic I need. For what? Kale demanded, forcing himself to his feet. What are you trying to do? Break the veil, of course. Vesper smiled at his confusion. Did you think the mortal realm was all that exists? There are other worlds, Alpha King. Dark worlds where beings of immense power were imprisoned eons ago by the first true Lunas. And with a corrupted true Luna under my control, I can tear down those prisons and set them free. Horror flooded through Kale. You'll destroy everything. Those beings will reward me with immortality and power beyond imagination. Vesper's hand moved to the pendant fused to Sarah's palm. The anchor is complete. The corruption is absolute. In minutes, the transformation will be irreversible. No, Kale said, but it came out as a plea. Through the bond, he felt Sarah's consciousness fading, drowning in darkness. He had minutes, maybe seconds, before he lost her forever. Sarah, he sent desperately through their corrupted connection. Come back to me. Please. I can't. Her mental voice was barely a whisper. Too strong. KL, you have to kill me. Before I hurt you. Before I help her destroy the world. Never. Kale's response was absolute. We end this together or not at all. Then we both die, Sarah sent back, and he felt her resignation. I love you. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. Something in those words ignited a fury in KL unlike anything he'd ever felt. Sarah thought she was weak. After everything she'd survived, everything she'd overcome? No, he said aloud. You are not weak. You have never been weak. He strode forward, ignoring Vesper's threats, ignoring the corrupted magic crackling around Sarah. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough to touch. You were rejected and scorned your entire life, Kale said. You had no wolf, no status, and no power, and you still chose kindness over bitterness, still chose to help instead of hurt. You survived everything they threw at you with your soul intact. Kale, move, Darian shouted. She's charging another attack. Then let her strike me down, Kale said calmly, because I'm not leaving without my mate. He reached up slowly and cupped Sarah's face in his. Hands. The corrupted magic burned his palms, sent agony racing up his arms, but he didn't let go. When you touched the Moonstone, you didn't just awaken your power, he continued. You awakened hope in every wolf who'd been told they were worthless. You proved that the goddess doesn't choose her Lunas based on rank, but on the strength of their heart. Tears began to stream from Sarah's corrupted eyes, clear, not purple. The real Sarah, fighting to break through. And when Vesper attacked us, when she tried to drain my life, you didn't just save me, Kale said. You showed everyone what a true Luna really is. Not just power, but courage. Not just magic, but love. Stop! Vesper snarled, moving toward them. Stop talking to her. But Kale ignored the sorceress. So if you think I'm going to let some ancient witch steal you from me, he said, his forehead pressing against hers, you don't know your mate very well. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, claiming a declaration of everything he felt through the bond. And in that kiss he poured every ounce of his alpha power, his love, and his absolute refusal to let her go. The effect was immediate. Radiance erupted from their joined lips, pure lunar magic flooding through the corrupted connection. Sarah gasped against his mouth, and Kale felt her consciousness surging forward, fighting back with renewed strength. I'm here, he sent through the bond. I've got you. Fight. Together, their combined power slammed into the corruption like a tidal wave. Kyle felt it recoiling, weakening, and unable to withstand the force of a true mate bond pushed to its absolute limit. No, Vesper screamed, raising her hands to send another surge of dark magic. "I won't lose this." "Yes, you can," a new voice said. Thessaly appeared in the temple entrance, her ancient body glowing with radiance. Behind her stood dozens of wolves, Kael's royal guard and warriors from every pack. "Did you really think we wouldn't?" "Notice you'd found the anchor," Thessaly said. "We've been tracking you since you left the palace." She raised her hands, and every wolf behind her did the same. Luminescence poured from them pack magic, the collective power of wolves united. The wave hit Vesper head-on, slamming her backward and pinning her against the far wall. She shrieked in fury, but she was outnumbered and outmatched. "Kyle, the pendant!" Thessaly shouted. "Destroy the anchor!" Kael pulled back from Sera, his hands still cupping her face. "Can you let go of it?" "Aye." Sarah's eyes were clearing, purple fading back to luminescence. "I think so, if you help me." Together they focused on the pendant fused to her palm. Kael wrapped his hands around hers, his alpha power joining her lunar magic. The necklace blazed with purple light, fighting to maintain its hold, but they pushed harder. With a sound like reality tearing, the pendant broke free from Sarah's skin. "Now!" Thessaly commanded. Kael threw the necklace to the ground and brought his boot down on it with every ounce of supernatural strength he possessed. The pendant shattered, releasing a shockwave of dark energy. When the darkness cleared, the corruption inside Sarah was gone. She collapsed against Kael, her legs giving out, and he caught her immediately. Through their bond, now clean and clear, he felt her exhaustion, her pain, but also her profound relief. "Is it over?" she whispered against his chest. "Not quite," Thessaly said grimly. The ancient advisor and her wolves still had Vesper pinned, but the sorceress was laughing. "You think you've won?" Vesper's voice was ragged but triumphant. "You think destroying one anchor stops what I've put in motion? I have contingencies. Other anchors, other corrupted wolves, other plans." "Then we'll stop those too," Kael said coldly. "Will I rot in your deepest prison?" Vesper's smile was chilling. "Or will your precious mate spend the rest of her life wondering if I planted other corruption inside her? Will she ever trust her own thoughts again?" Sera flinched against Kael, and he felt her fear spike through the bond. "Ignore her," he said firmly. "She's trying to manipulate you." "Sleep well, little Luna," Vesper said. "I'll be waiting." Before anyone could react, Vesper's form began to shimmer and fade. The anchor's destruction had weakened the magical chains, holding her just enough for her pre-prepared escape spell to finally activate. "No!" Thessaly's power surged, trying to hold the sorceress, but Vesper slipped through like smoke. "She's teleporting!" In seconds, the dark sorceress vanished completely, leaving only her mocking laughter behind. The temple fell silent. Kael held Sera tighter, feeling her trembling. "She's gone," Darian said, limping forward with blood dripping from a cut. "Damn it." "We'll find her," Thessaly said, but she sounded uncertain. "Not today," Kael interrupted. He looked down at Sera, at his mate who'd just fought off. Corruption that should have consumed her completely. "Today we go home. Tomorrow we plan. But right now, my mate needs rest." No one argued. The royal guard formed a protective circle as they left the temple, and Sera didn't let go of Kael's hand the entire journey back to Silvercrest Palace. But as they rode through the mountain pass, as the palace came into view, Sera couldn't shake Vesper's final words. "Will you ever be able to trust your own thoughts again?" She looked up at Kael, at the man who'd risked everything to save her, and made a silent vow. Whatever Vesper had planned, whatever corruption might still lurk in shadows, she would face it. Not alone, but with her mate beside her. Because that's what true mates did. They faced the darkness together. 3 months later, Sera stood on the palace balcony, watching the sun set over the mountains. Behind her, she could hear celebration wolves from every territory gathered to honor the Luna who'd survived corruption. "There you are." Kael's arms wrapped around her waist from behind. "They're asking for you inside." "Let them wait," Sera said, leaning back against him. "I needed a moment." 3 months since the temple, 3 months of training, of regular examinations to ensure no other corruption lurked inside her, 3 months of hunting for Vesper, following leads that went nowhere. But they were also 3 months of healing, of learning to trust herself again. Thessaly says I'm ready, Sarah said quietly, ready for the full bonding ceremony. She felt Kael tense with hope. Are you sure? I'm sure. She turned in his arms. Vesper wanted to use our bond as a weapon. I want to prove it's our strength instead. Kael's kiss was gentle, reverent, and full of promise. Then let's give them a ceremony they'll never forget. The full bonding took place under the full moon in the palace's sacred grove, witnessed by hundreds of wolves. When Sarah and Kael completed the ancient rites, when their marks blazed on each other's necks, the very ground seemed to sing with the power of their union. And far away, in a hidden chamber, Vesper felt that power through her scrying mirror and smiled. Well done, little Luna, she whispered. Grow strong, become powerful, because when I return, I'll need you at your absolute peak to break the veil. But back in the palace, as Sarah danced with her mate under the stars, surrounded by wolves who called her Luna with genuine love, she felt nothing but peace. Whatever came next, they would face it together. She had her mate, her pack, her power, and nothing would take that away from her again. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed Sarah and Kael's journey from rejection to redemption, from weakness to power, from isolation to belonging. If you'd like to listen on the go, all my stories are also available on Spotify under Lily's Romance Library. You'll find the link in the description below. A big thank you to everyone who's following. Your support truly means the world to me. Until next time, may you always find your true mate and never be afraid to embrace your power.